$100 and way more. Hey there, everybody. Welcome on back. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing great. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, nay editor, nay coach, nay come and talk to me about anything you want to know about being a writer and business owner connected. How's is Soul Bards? How's is? Today we're talking about acquired childhood experiences. What are they? How are they affecting us? All that jazz. All that jazz. I did go ahead and include in the description box below a link to the Google Drive folder where you can get access to everything for our gathering today. And just in case it denies you all access, I've got my phone here to go in and give you access if you need to request it through Gmail. So if Google Suite says, haha, request access, let me know in comments here live and I'll go ahead and do. And of course, I'll watch the email for any questions or things you might have over the next couple of days, especially in relations to Tech Gremlins with the folder, just in case there are any hiccups. Shouldn't be, but just in case. You'll find the journals from the previous video that I put out a couple weeks ago announcing the class, and the slides and the questions to go ahead and use and take notes on or whatever along the way. I designed today's class around a game of playing 20 questions plus. The plus is question number 20 is literally question and answer session. So however many questions you all give me to answer at the end, I'll go ahead and star them as we're going along, unless they're on topic appropriate, and then we'll address them. So whatever you need to know, whatever you want to know, do join in. So first and foremost, hello there, Rachel. I got stories to, I was going to say, I forgot that was this weekend. I thought it was next weekend when I looked at the calendar, because for whatever reason, when I saw that there were 5 Fridays in May, I thought there were also 5 Saturdays in May. Dyscalculia failed me. Thanks, June 1st on a Saturday. So that's part of the reason why I'm unintentionally overlapping the same weekend as something I'm going to be listening into tomorrow anyway. Hello, Miranda. It's glad to have you here. Sam, it's so good to see you, honey. It's so good to see you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and add the slides up to the stage there. So let me give you a little bit of a background of what even made me think to link these two things. Over on my other channel, the Soul Bard Collective, we talk about the spirituality and the psychology of writing in theory. Here we talk about process and practice. So this falls into the process and practice side. And as an educator in K-12 over the last decade, this is something that, as part of studying how to help neurodivergent learners be better at any skill in writing, this is something that came up again and again and again and again and again and again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why? ACEs affect us in so many ways. So what even are ACEs? Let me back up. Let me get a little Psych 101 here, Sociology 101 with you right quick, because the information I'm giving you, I'm hoping not only will you use for yourself for how you run your business, but when I realized, holy cow, most of our characters have these possibly to unexplored levels. So from a character development point of view, you get what I mean? This might be something that we're not exactly connecting through all plot lines, and it could help us possibly solve plot holes, was also my line of thought, if writers understood this concept in general from a developing in the human condition relatability point of view, either as a person or character, would go. Hello there, Lauren. I assume Nicole's nearby. It's good to see you all. You are just in time. Again, don't forget we have the Google Drive folder with a copy of the slides and the journals and more if you want to go ahead and grab those. So, what even are ACEs? What does it stand for? Adverse childhood experiences. I sometimes slip and want to say acquired instead because it's kind of like playing Candyland or Chutes and Ladders. You're going to encounter some obstacles, broken bones. Sometimes you might not, i.e., there's a lot of common things that are accidents in childhood that can be trigger warning, traumatizing, that some people might not even think of, i.e., your first kiss didn't go well, i.e., prom, something about prom, things that are just generally part of the high schooler condition, true, socially. But I'm even looking at things like somebody tapped your bumper too hard and you had a tiny fender bender that really truly didn't do more than scratch the car, but now you have permanent night terrors that affect your ability to function. You broke your ankle, your tonsillitis, whatever, didn't go right. You see how like little common stuff to the childhood condition can become a lifelong thing. And it seems silly, but it's not. And it really does impact us. Hello, Jess. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Welcome in, my friend. Welcome in. We're just getting started. So ACEs are like, somebody once kind of sort of inaccurately called them micro traumas in some degrees. And I can see where you might consider them that. From an inside out Pixar Disney point of view, these would definitely be those memory balls where like 5 or 6 emotions all touched them at the same time, if you want to give a core memory image there. So they can be traumatic, they're common, and it can go way bad. Heads up, trigger warnings from here on out on the rest of the recording for everyone live on the replay. Okay, you know your boundaries. If you need to step away, do so. This is a safe space. Okay, if need be, I will go in and switch it to membership mode on the live comments if we get trolls for that reason. That'll be the only reason. So heads up. Okay, this is a safe space from here on out. So declared. Regardless of severity, duration, or repetition, these have lasting impacts. In the video that I made advertising this course and giving you all a heads up about it, I referenced when I bummed up my knee when I was 12. It affects me a lot as a writer. Why? A therapist said, think about it. Your foundation has literally been shaken and unsteady in your body. And I said, I never contextualized that injury that way. She could have a point. And she went on to say, as a therapist, what did your weight do? What do you think my weight did? They were debating on if they were going to do a knee replacement on a 12-year-old girl in the late 90s. I couldn't walk for a week. They didn't even want, minimal movement for like a week. Thank goodness it was a long weekend that weekend at school. Because I missed a couple days. And because they needed the swelling and whatnot to chill down. Why? X-ray tech back then was not so good. They literally could not see how broken my knee was until they got the swelling under control and the bruising under control a week later. So yeah, you can imagine what my weight did. I was only about 30 pounds overweight, 40 pounds overweight, maybe at most beforehand. A hard year's work would have fixed it. By the time I got into high school, I was wearing 3X women's clothing. By the time I was in college, I was wearing size 30 pants. You all are seeing me considerably back down from my biggest size now, believe it or not. How has that affected me as a writer? Where was my confidence for 10 years, do you think? In the repair box, right? And those are the kind of things that in therapy, she would, you'd never know that something physical like that can become emotional. And the more we as humans study neurodivergence, I think we see where all the more it is appropriate and fair to say how one person reacts to an event is never to be the same expectation of how someone else is going to react or respond. Therefore, you don't need to be kind. You don't need to be nice. You need to be compassionate. And to me, compassionate is a bare minimum, right? Because all you're doing is asking other people to just have an open mind. That's a bare minimum, right? So you're looking at development. Again, you can apply this to your characters. I always look at aces with 3 characters specifically in mind whenever I'm writing my books. Ian, because his childhood was a lie. Frey, who was an orphan growing up, and it highly impacted him. Some of you who have read the beginning of the books understand. Yep, that makes sense. That ticks. His issues with authority, got it. And then all of the kids in the next generation, but predominantly Ian's niece, Iona, for a combination of the 2 reasons. You see what I mean? Something that someone else might consider insignificant can literally be what caused a person to develop the way they did. So do you have them? Likely. This is, in my opinion, why I think it is wise to say that everybody over the age of 18 should be required before they become a full adult to go do 6 months of therapy. Roots run deep. The neurodivergence studies with ACEs. One moment, please. Sorry about that. Maybe I should have puffed on my inhaler before this. Anywho, studies in neurodivergence with ACEs are leading people to understand and realize all the more. Oh, you mean that thing that I forgot most days happen is really the root cause of a daily choice and behavior? Possibly. Somebody jokingly said at a teacher's conference once, this is why some of my students with OCD have some of their obsessions. And I'm like, you actually might not be wrong. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm going, yeah, this is why I get super obsessive about the house getting locked up at night for certain reasons. I grew up in downtown Baltimore for the first 8 years of my life, literally walking distance to the Inner Harbor. That city-ism of ultimate safety never left me. You see what I mean? Even though we used to live in the middle of nowhere. You have some trauma that only you yourself know about. It's great, not, but at the same time, you're getting through it, right? Sometimes with ACEs, like I said, this, bullying. I mean, as a former K-12 educator, I'm going to say this. I hesitate to send my children to the social media wilds before they're 13 because bullying does not stop at the bus stop anymore, right? This, a fender bender. As we can tell in this picture, everyone walked away. But, right? Well, that's an interesting thing Canva decided to do when it downloaded this slide. The passing of a loved one or a pet is what that was supposed to symbolize. Note, fix the slide. Your first breakup, maybe prom didn't go so great. I mean, before the Cheesecake Man, I had an almost marriage that ended not so great. Maybe you get a rejection letter from your first job. This. It's why I think you and I love each other's writing so much, my friend. Honestly. This. And we do it naturally. It's part of writing what we know. Literally. That whole ism of writing what you know does not always pertain to what your book smarts are. It usually pertains to what your socioeconomical street smarts are, aka, like Tanya Melendez says, the muse is simply the inner child all grown up. Just, yeah. Some of this with the cyberbullying is literally why in some states, like here in Maryland, it's becoming zero tolerance. Now, I've taught for West Virginia, where they just are starting to really get a handle on anti-bullying laws. Here in Maryland, ooh, buddy. The things my nephew has told me that he has seen some of his classmates sent to juvie over are things that we got merely suspended for a day or two ago, 10 years ago. And I'm like, wow, they're not joking. No, they ain't joking for a reason. Paget, hello, welcome in. Jess, there's reasons why you don't see spicy scenes. See, and this is it. This is why I know some people prefer to read love stories versus romances. There is a difference. Romances tend to be a little bit more, even the sweet ones tend to have their PDA kissy moments on occasion. They fade to black out of, right? This is why I think so many people enjoy love stories that follow the intimacy of the building of the relationship with maybe some hand holding. You get what I mean? So definitely for those of us who incorporate these items into what we write, we need to be cognizant of where they land and whether or not really truly should the same issue show up in 30 different characters. We get it, Jenna. Mom issues. I gotcha. Anyway, it apparently showed up in like 5 of my books. I had to reel that back a little bit from here on out. Okay. How do I deal with them as an adult? Well, there's a couple of different ways you could deal with them. I would hope that you would consider whatever version of therapy is healthiest and safe for you. In my opinion, yoga is therapy. Crocheting is therapy. Quilting, crafting, writing, anything that you can make into a positive action-ing verb of the gerunding type, if you prefer the grammar context there from the former English teacher, you're probably doing a type of therapy, okay? Video gaming, for some people, is, as long as it's not consuming and dictating their lives, can be a form of therapy. I play The Sims for a reason. The way I play The Sims sometimes, intentionally, to get out certain angers. We all know what swimming pools do in The Sims, okay? We all know I only play nightmare mode on blank game when I feel this way because, right? Or I'm a Virgo, this is true. The house is suddenly sparkling clean. Jenna must have gotten really angry at somebody. Your Honor, I'd like to just admit that I'm guilty as charged, okay? Just tell the warden guilty as charged. Yes, at a certain point. Yep. See, and that's why even I think I used to believe that depending on your genre, you didn't need trigger warnings, i.e., when I walk into a mystery, horror, thriller, that vein of thought, I expect all my trigger warnings to be, hey, radar, radar, lighthouse, lighthouse, where are you? Where are you? Are you okay? The whole time I'm reading those. Apparently, not everybody feels that way anymore. I have now since changed because the nope, 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 we're done. Miranda, you prefer the fade to black scenes. Just feel the spice is personal. See, yes, and this is another thing. This is probably part of how you view those intimate relationships, probably since childhood, right? Kisses and hugs are fine. See, I'm a hugaholic. Yeah. Fair warning, you all meet me in person, I'm going to hug you. Fair warning. You got to tell me that you're not a hugger because I'll hug you. Jess wondered if the Cheesecake Man has ever. Yes. Uh-huh. He has come home from work before and asked me, "Are you angry at me?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And he's like, "Nothing." And then I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I did rage clean today." No, I'm not necessarily mad at you, honey. Former teacher has done that many a Saturday. Just saying. You can handle the fade to black. See, for me, again, if it's inside the genre it belongs in, I'm okay. Otherwise, just don't include it. What does this mean for me as a business owner? Well, what kind of balance do you have in your life right now? This is a season of change. I believe in numerology. 5 is a number of change. May is graduation season for a reason. You cannot tell me that's a coincidence, in my opinion. May is the season of change. So, when the changes get really tough and make your foundation, circling it back to my knee here a little bit, feel more shaky than normal, take a step back. Instead of picking away at the pulled thread in the tapestry and pulling it out worse, pull back and look at the whole tapestry. Is it really as bad as it looks? Probably not. Are you showing up, kicking butt, and doing your best? You're hearing me say this because you probably are. You're probably in a sprint somewhere because you probably are. You're probably betaing for somebody, or you see what I mean? Because you probably are. Make sure you're doing something for you. Business owners tend to overgive until they become bitter about it. Take a step back. When you start to feel the, as Matt Schaefer calls it, when you start to feel the back end clench up and you start to go, take a breath. Okay. That's probably the most beneficial first step. Now notice how I worded that first step. You don't know how deeply aggravated that moment is going in your roots. It could be pulling on a string inside of you that feels like a thread in the moment that might have the end root that thick buried somewhere in your childhood and you not realize it. It's okay. We're human. We have so much going on and so much thrown at us, especially because of stuff like this always being in our faces, right? It's fair for you to need to step back, get your balance, and go again. Why aren't you using these in your marketing? Can I use my aces in my marketing? Why not? Relatable stories. Relatable stories. If you go, let's give AuthorTube an example. If you go looking at all the most successful authors on AuthorTube, they have a couple of key things in how they make their videos in common. They all focus around on what we would consider a personal pain point to most authors, okay? Hence this whole class why I titled it what I titled it. Hence, so you want to be an author tuber. Hence, Soul Care Sundays. Hence, a lot of things that a ton of us, I was going to say, your Medium articles alone. Oh my goodness. And I know even with Sam, over on Sam's channel, we've been getting what it's like to deal with mental health right now and writing. So these are common pain points. Yes, use them at the same time. At the same time. You got to make sure you're checking yourself. These topics are heavy. If you need to take a break from them because you notice what you're saying is hitting too close to home, it's one thing to be a model to go through it. Don't be a martyr. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the purpose of doing those things is to translate it into not just like Rachel is, another platform, because that's a dang good idea. That's an amazing idea. But at the same time, what are you doing also to show people your solutions? Okay. It's because you're trying, it is kind, I don't want to call it free therapy. You're being a role model of, because we're not medical professionals is why I'm saying I don't want to call it a therapy. It can feel cathartic, which is a cousin to therapeutic, if you get my meaning. But at the same time, you are big time helping each other by being that cathartic model of we are together through this. We can do this together. That's kind of, if I were to call it any kind of therapy, if you were to relate it to even round robin writing, yes, big time agreed, because of that catharsis. Miranda, even low self-esteem. Yes. Oh, big time, honey. Big time. I will admit, the hardest part of being a K-12 teacher has literally been me having to walk up to kids and force them to simply do that. I can't even get kids to have the confidence to express themselves sometimes simply to even pick up the pen, let alone write with it. So I get this as far as what you're saying. It can and does go back that far. That's why I literally started telling my students, and now tell all of you the same thing. Whoever told you that lie, dump their garbage, because they already forgot they threw it on to you. Why are you carrying around somebody else's projection of the self? They threw their rotten eggs on you. You deserve to go clean it off. Okay. So yeah, big time. Use it in your marketing, but also model that when the drain is nigh, what's the solution? Okay. What's the solution? I have taken here recently to really focusing on the fact that I intentionally write healing stories to indicate, yes, there's dark in my stories, but you see the healing. At least I hope you do, because that's my intention to show it through the characters, right? So even just mentioning something as subtle as that could definitely be an advantage in your marketing, because it can, if you do the dark, it flags people how dark you might want to go without giving a million triggers. Okay. But it also, for those who do feel the trigger, gives them hope of, okay, this is going to be just like real life. It's going to suck, but it's going to be worth it when we're out of the other side. Just realizing one of your characters has a few issues. Yes! Personal bleed is what it's called. Or at least that's the old name for it. Personal bleed. Ooh, how do you deal with aces that are sometimes cause a negative issue with your current career? I'm going to hold that question for later. Good question. We're going to get there. I'm going to hold it. What kind of authentic topics can I generate is why I'm holding it. Okay. Depends on what your current career is. Now, if you're in authordom, right, I would go with a sandwich method here. Normally in most writing production, and therefore in most video production, you have a lineup of hook, intro, body, conclusion with call to action. If you do that in blogging, and if you do that in essay writing, and if you have an Act 1, 2.1, 2.2, Act 3 structure in your writing, why aren't you doing that in your video production is what we spend a large part of So You Want to Be an Author Tuber even talking about for this very reason. Those become hooks. Yeah, it can be a negative issue. What are you doing to find the positive solution? Now, there's a difference between a negative issue and obvious drama and bashing. Can we say it that way? Because I will admit I have seen my fellow authors around the AuthorTube be quite the high school children to one another, if you get my meaning. If it belongs at a cafeteria table in high school, don't bring it around my channel, is what I tell people for a reason. So that's kind of knowing your ideal audience. That's kind of getting into knowing your ideal reader and what you will welcome on your channel to be considered negative. Do you get what I mean? So think about it. You got to kind of play that out of the head hat trick of, if I were looking at this, how would I, how far would I be willing to go? Notice when I talk about my career in K-12, I talk about the topics that are common in media already. Try to relate it to that, always thinking of universal truths, universal themes, maybe as well. Sam, dealing with the fear of getting your work and yourself out there. Yep. All of this. Thank you. It's like you know why I have a fairy who causes food fights in my books to mock certain types of people in high school and beyond. So this, yes, know which battles you want to pick is kind of going to be not only how we answer this question, but more importantly, this one, okay? Know what your audience will tolerate and the type of audience you want to cultivate. In my opinion, no drama llama. I ain't got time for that. I taught K-12 for 10 years plus. Take that away from my channel, please and thank you. Writer Sam Wicker, dealing with the fear. Oh, we already did this one. Sorry. Sorry, but imposter syndrome can also go in a corner and sit there and leave us alone, right? Paget. Like the ones, yes. Yeah. The ones I was aware I was writing in, but I did not realize that I was doing self-therapy for a couple of those topics while writing, right? This is what in part I call serious black syndrome. Wow, that character taught me a lot about myself as a reader and writer. Whew. So yeah, if you learned something about yourself while writing that character, you probably are going to learn something about yourself in reverse from someone else as a reader. Therefore, your readers will probably feel it in your book too. This is why I always say it has to go back to character motive eventually. What do they want? How much does what each character want sound like that? Sorry to the people who don't like that noise of acrylic nail on acrylic nail, but you get what I mean. Sorry for the unintentional, really bad ASMR, but that's conflict. And as writers, the best books, every scene has some roller coaster through line of some kind of level of conflict, or else it's fluff. And I like to add fluff on occasion. They work hard. They need to break as much as we do. We call it video game time. They call it snuggling. Anyway, Sam, no mashed potato fights. Miranda, low self-esteem, lacking confidence could be one reason. Yeah. This is why, in part, it took me so long to put my books back on the market again after pulling them once already. And I've been given suggestion to do so again, and I'm just like, no. They can get another edition. I'll just upload a new file. Because I already went through that once, and I know the torture that I put myself in. And I'm slightly behind where I want to be for that reason, I'll admit. Imposter syndrome. Rachel, think you often give people the benefit of the doubt because, see, and this is the thing. Yep. We all have glasses that are tinted by our experiences, literally all the way back to childhood. I mean, that's why I compared childhood to like Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. Some of you are going to land in the mud and walk out of it just covered in a couple of bruises and dirt. Some of us are going to land in the mud and break our nose or break a finger or. You get my meaning? It's literally a statistical shakeup, nothing more. Just, yeah, I'm trying to fix. Plot hole. This is why I say it's wise to go, how long does this route go in my character's history, as much as it's valid for us to ask ourselves the same. Suddenly a side character. You love him. Anyway, yes. This is why I adore Rita's stories. Like, seriously. You are so attentive to detail. You are like one of the most, like, seriously, the way you meticulously make sure, like, do you have plot holes? You are so meticulous. Like, I'm just like, wow. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. At the same time, what can we do to get you doing it faster for the next one? You see, trusting the process a little bit more, which is, I do not know what that vibrating noise is outside of my house. However, I hope it doesn't cause my connection to go bye-bye, because they were working on internet stuff in other houses and are doing stuff here next week. Anyway, so if my internet suddenly cuts out, that means somebody outside of the home cut a wire. I'm sorry. Anywho, backtracking. Sorry. Backtracking. Oh, trusting the process. Tomorrow on the Soul Bard Collective for Writing to Heal, we are talking about just that for that reason. It kind of went really well with what we're talking with here today and with what's being spoken about tomorrow on Soul Care Sundays, which some people in chat are joining me for. So does this resonate at all with your ideal reader and ideal audience? We kind of touched on a little bit. If you don't know your ideal reader or your ideal audience, sit down and literally make a fake profile of who they are. Give them a name. I have one for my editing and coaching clients. So the video is about that, focus on them. And I have a different one for my reader, and my video is about that, focus on them. They are not the same person. My coaching and editing client is modeled off of a couple of former students I've had in the past. The ideal reader, basically me when I was in my early 20s. Probably is for most of us, right? So make a fake profile, not like Facebook or whatever profile, like a character sheet, if you will. Rita, yes, yes, yes. As Sarah Cannon has often reminded us, done is usually better than perfect. Say it again, Virgo. Done is usually better than perfect. Done is usually better than perfect. Anyway, people outside of Jenna's house, please, yes, please don't do that. Hello, Mom Jilla. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Thank you for being in here. Here I loop stories about my journey into evergreen content that uplifts someone going through something similar. If you're not, you should consider doing so, especially considering that most of the topics we're talking about are indeed evergreen. You can reformat it to a new platform. Yeah, but even new videos on it. This is something that I think a lot of us in AuthorTube don't do enough of, is revisit the same topic and dive deeper each time. I think so many of us do 2 or 3 videos and are like, dang it, that doesn't work. Switch to something totally different. No, pause. Dive deeper, but on a slightly connected topic. Why? The algorithm needs more data points to notice that it's evergreen content. Evergreen trees take how long to grow? But they start from one seed. That seed grows up, becomes the sapling. That's ring 1. That's video 1. Another year goes by. We get another ring on the tree. That's video 2. Ring 3, video 3. Ring 4, video. You see how I'm doing this here? You see how you get that evergreen built. 20 years for an evergreen might be 20 videos. You probably will have a clue by video 20 whether or not it's a topic you should stick with. Because somewhere around video 5 to 15, people are either going to be watching it at about the same rate, be watching an increasing rate, even if small. That increasing rate may or may not be analogous to the size of your channel. So if you have 50 subs and anything over 50 viewers looks at it, good. If you have a couple hundred subs and 10, 20, 30, 40 people are looking at it, okay, what do we need to do? It may not be the video itself. Let's check in the background. Are you doing your SEO appropriately? Are you putting end cards and redirects and whatnot on other videos to make people, because that's often what a lot of author tubers aren't doing. You are very generously, to the point of your detriment, sometimes sending people off your channel too often. Wait a minute, you mean I'm not being selfish? No, probably not. I bet I could go to most of our videos and find, within a couple of minutes, a handful of them that redirect to other channels. Because I'm just now starting to be good at that stuff because it takes time. This is normally something that somebody at a bigger channel will pay an assistant to do as part of social media management, right? So it might not even be your content or your video or the number of times you're doing it. It might be how you're telling your channel to talk to itself so that your viewers are like, oh, wait a minute. They had 5 videos on this? I only thought they had 1 video on this. In that context, put my brain in the last 3 months, I'm like, oh, got it. I'm not calling home enough to check in on myself. Got it. You're too busy calling everybody else. So look at how you can eventually make that ring back around to you. So definitely, if not just reformatting to a new platform, check your SEO, check your metadata. Can you do a new article on this, but better, right? Deeper dives, your medium deep dives are just like my nerd brain, man. My nerd brain. Oh, love them. So I'm totally not thinking yeah. End cards get forgotten. At least link it to a playlist and a subscribe button. Seriously, one of the most rewarding things I do for myself now is once a week. I'm such a nerd. I put on the How Rude Tanneritos podcast, which features Jodie Sweetin, Stephanie Tanner, and Andrea Barber. Yeah, Kimmy Gibbler. Doing an episode by episode reactionary walkthrough of the whole series from beginning to end, both shows. I listen to one episode and I do all the metadata I can in YouTube. Once a week, about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long the podcast goes. I look forward to it now. Because the things I didn't know was going on that set are very intriguing. You see what I mean? How can you do something that's boring, snore, snooze work to turn it into a habit? Find something you enjoy and habit stack it. Okay? If there's a series of documentaries that you've been meaning to listen to, or I was just about to say, pop-up video. It still exists. I kid you not. I kid you not. God, I now hear MTV pop-up video. Nope. Or was it VH1? Oh God, I don't remember which one it was on now. I didn't watch as much of either as I really should, apparently. But yes, pop-up video. Again, what can you do mechanically to loop the data in the back? Thank you, Miranda. And I'm like, wait a minute. VH1. Yes, thank you. We are ageless, for we are authors. Not old. Nope. True. I mean, look at Shakespeare. In my mind, he's forever stuck at what, 20 something in that picture they have him drawn in? Anyway. But what can you do to make sure that people are aware you're doing the evergreen is probably where a lot of us are leaning. Yes, if you take So You Want to Be an Author Tuber, that's going to be the level 2 course. We're getting into video editing stuff this summer, and then probably in the fall getting into metadata stuff. So I don't know if I'm doing another cohort on sooner than next year. We'll see. What can I learn from reflection that is wise and kind to someone in my shoes? You're going to want to make a list. There is this whole idea of having a standby list in the neurodivergent community of a bag of tricks to get yourself out of those moods. Some of my students, even as like fully functional adults, will have something even as small as like this container with just little things that they can kind of, take off into a corner and do. It can be again, crocheting. I could fit a ball of yarn and a couple of needles in there. Fidget spinners, definitely. Painting stuff. You see what I mean? What can I do that's a little teeny tiny thing that when that drain gets bad, I can have on standby, or that you can start providing as solutions in your evergreen content. You see how that can go two ways? Hence why I recently did that video with all of you publicly of the releasing exercise that we did in So You Want to Be an Author Tuber together. Okay. Hence why I carried a part 1, part 2 of that over onto my other channel. I've now offered people 3 different ways to do it. Evergreen content. Okay. So yeah, you can revisit something and say, hey, do you remember that thing we did a while back? We're going to redo it, but better. I'm going to be doing that with my battle writing series here soon. In the next year or so for Soul Bard Academy, exactly that way. Is this a wise way for content in your books, channel, social media, newsletter, whatever, to kind of do let me test something new for a couple of things and see if it works, and if it flops, run away from it? That's called research and development, baby. That's called research and development. That's how most marketing gets beta tested. Let's see how the first one does, at least at this small of a scale. For us, let's see how the first one does. And if it doesn't work, you don't have to delete it unless it's, that bad and you want to. Unless it's really that bad and you want to. We are almost done, my friends. We are almost done. What resources can I direct them toward? Depends on the topic at hand. One moment, would like to first and foremost send everybody to, if you wanted to learn more about ACEs, well, the one link I was looking for isn't going to pop up, but I'll take Harvard's link instead, because they have the downloadable PDF on the topics. So this is from the Center on the Developing Child. They are leading a lot of research, not just on ACEs, not just on toxic stress on children, but how those things are turning into things like workplace stress and relationship. You see what I mean? They're looking at how those become micromanaging bosses and Karens and Chads and all that stuff too. The things we mock in memes, they're starting to see in research. It's going way back further than we realize potentially. So if you want to see a rather in-depth snapshot guide and the downloadable PDF and access to more research on the topic of ACEs, I'm going to model what I want you to do. Go check it out. Now with resources, notice the source I gave you. It's not the one I wanted, but it's still a .edu and it's from a research place. Rachel's really good at doing this in her Medium articles, like really, really good. And if you're not sure how, I teach you in the videos on this channel as part of Soul Bard Academy's membership. Okay. There's a research methods course waiting for you to teach you how. Okay. .orgs are good because normally they're nonprofit organizations. You need to make sure they're nonprofit because some for-profits are now qualifying for the .org, and I don't like that. And you can tell why I don't like that, because I would rather it be research for the sake of research that is quality research. Possibly. Most Karens are just narcissists. So if you can cure narcissism out of the feminine sociology, which is our generation's problem, Sam. And to a tad, I would even say Rita, Rachel's generation. It's the Gen X millennial curse for women, is to heal the narcissistic mother wounds that have been chasing femininity since before we had rights, because narcissism was how we had to survive before we had rights. Sorry to lay you all that opinion, and I will admit that's my opinion. Welcome back, my friend. Huge hugs. Welcome back. So what sources can I direct them toward? .edus, .orgs, credible research. Check the credibility, because you never know who's going to say, oh, yeah, that belief group. No. It's misdirected rage, or right. Can I use aces to make characters who are more relatable in my writing? We have already heavily approached this. I would venture, for sake of sensitivity, do your research. I, as a person who lives with a mental health diagnosis, I have complex PTSD and rapid cycling bipolar 1. The bipolar is way more under control than the PTSD. And neurodivergence is saying you probably have the CPTSD with bipolar tendencies as your symptoms, because they're starting to show where mood disorders that have PTSD primary. You see what I mean? Do your research, and avoid stereotypes. We all know how certain movies were received in the last decade. Sensitivity checks abounds. Okay. If it makes your radar go off, should I have another set of eyes? Check my biases. Even if I live with this, might be wise. It might be wise. Okay. Yep, check credibility, and also that exactly. Now, Harvard's research for educational related purposes, I'm more okay with, because I know how those schools are funded. Notice how it was like, I don't know, can I recommend this part of Harvard? Because, okay, it's on a related topic. They're the ones who relate this topic. So yeah, in a highly political sized world, you're going to unfortunately have to check your biases. Like, you know how they used to say about building houses, measure twice, cut once, double check 5 times, publish once. Yeah, this is actually kind of who I was thinking of in part when you were asking that. I adore you so much. How can these checks of human relationships and relatability affect me for the long term? Hopefully you are helping yourself heal. If you are just replacing your abuser and abusing yourself, you need to stop. And I'm going to pause there and give you a huge hug, because that was a heavy load to say. So, is it making you feel better? Are you healing? Because healing's going to hurt. It's not easy. It's simply a different kind of hard than making the same choice again and again on repeat. Especially in an adult brain that is not nearly elastic as a child brain. We are stuck in our old ways is a truism because of how the brain develops, okay? So look at the plot lines. Are they following through, or are they can cycle, but not as a circle. They should spiral staircase, hence why the evergreen tree gets taller the more rings it gets. Okay? I mean, if the evergreen tree just simply grew out width-wise, we would never ever let them grow as pretty and beautiful and decorate them as Christmas decorations as we do. Your writing deserves the same, because you deserve the same. You deserve to grow like an ever-growing evergreen tree in your writing ability, in your storytelling ability, in your businessing ability, but also in your ability to take care of yourself so you can do all those epic things. And I know live and on the replay you needed to hear that. So again, huge hug. You deserve better than the lies, than the dirt, than the garbage other people threw on you that they themselves did not want to personally deal with. Okay? Nothing is perfect. Your best possible try is always going to be worth it. You made the intentional attempt to try. That matters more than someone who didn't even bother to give it a second thought to even step in that direction. Rita, relationships are difficult for sure. We sometimes, yes, drift to the past, bring it back up. It reopens the wound. Sometimes a wound gets infected and you need to reopen it for the sake of cleaning it out again. If it's not infected, let it scab over and stop picking up the scab, inner child, right? It kind of has that feeling to it. Thank you, Matt Schaefer. It kind of has that feeling to it. For those of you who are taking the conscious business, is it the conscious business accelerator they're doing, or the conscious coaching accelerator they're doing this time around in June? My full-time purpose teachers are doing a new class. If you're not taking it, join with us quick. A bunch of us are taking it together. It'll be a blast. We do address a lot of stuff like this in that class and how it affects your ability to run your business. Heads up, it'll be 3 weeks of more of this. With your work in progress, what are some tropes and topics you're considering off limits? Heads up, you should make a list. This can also apply to your marketing. Is that the next slide? Nope, might be. Yep. So we're going to stick just to our work in progress. I had to make sure I had the right question in my head. Work in progress. What are some tropes and topics I'm considering off limits because I don't, I can't handle those hurdles right now, Jenna. Those hurdles will cause me to trip and fall and face plant, and they're a little too tall right now. That's okay. Let's start with smaller hurdles. Because homework, do this question. Be kind to yourself when you take the time to do this question. From the above question, highlight 3 that might be changeable over time, i.e., I can't do this topic this year, but maybe in a year I'll be okay. Notice I'm just now starting to get comfortable about talking about somebody who's been hanging up behind me for 2 years. Hello, Angel. Right? That's the only picture I'll ever have of my baby. That's something I could not say on camera a year ago without elephant tears and snot running down my face. And I knew that. And I knew that. For a reason. I have something very special I carry on my person because of Angel. And Kay didn't even realize it. That might be a video for another day. Of how my friends were meant to be my friends. You guys. Anyway, so From the above question, highlight 3 that might be changeable over time and underline 3 that are absolute non-negotiables, like, I don't think I could ever talk about that. You're making yourself aware of yourself, so you're okay. I love you all too. Hugs. So add your 6, your upper and your lower 3, that's 6, to your ideal reader or audience avatar, because that might be something that they will never ever want to see you write about. But there might be something you can plant a seed for to eventually get to in a couple books. Heads up, one of the females does lose a baby, but it happens between books and is mentioned for like 2 paragraphs. It's not Rochelle's first set of twins. I'll tell you that. Okay. So those of you who are about to read book 2, you're okay. It happens much later. Okay. And between books for a reason. It's a planted seed. By the same token, some of you who have read book 1 are like, oh my God, Neftiri has infertility issues. For a reason. Right? So at one point, I said those are non-negotiables. Now I'm starting to be okay with it. Just by example. Are there tropes from some sub-genres that I have not considered before because of Aces? Probably. I would say it's okay to borrow logical tropes from genres and subgenres that are not yours, so long as you're willing to throw a trigger warning if it's needed in there about it. Okay? I didn't used to think that way. Now I do. Yep. Yes. Yep. You're accurate. I will sometimes take Halloween to myself because Angel's birthday is right before. So I appreciate you all for that. So from the above question, if you made a list, again, do that highlight. Make a list. More homework. This opens you up to other things to unblock your writing if you get into a pickle. Don't let it hang you up. If you need to take care of your mental health first before you address it, go ahead and do so because the pickle might be sour. So to get through the sour, make yourself a list. An upper 3, a lower 3. Add that to part of your reader so that way it's a guiding light. If you make that character sheet, do so. Okay. Should aces become trigger warnings? We've touched on. Let me emphasize, I've changed how I feel about this over the years. If it upsets you or you have a reaction to writing it, maybe you should. I often say if I have an emotional reaction while writing, my reader's probably going to feel that. So, trigger warning list coming for the Myrna Annals here this summer, believe it or not. Are there aces in my characters already? Here's the homework. We addressed the yes, you should, no, you shouldn't. Here's the application. And then, how can I incorporate learning that about my characters into my social media content? Put it in your books, now put it in your marketing. Because you're going to make it a part of your ideal audience for both. We are now getting into the final wrap-up Q&A session. Mother's Day. Yes, that too. I didn't even think about that, but true. I have a hard time celebrating Mother's Day because I don't feel like a mother. We'll put it that way. I think a lot of people in my book feel that way. Yep. We sure did, honey. We sure did. So any other questions while we wrap up and wind down? I said it was going to take about an hour or so, and I was right. I'm glad I blocked out 2 hours. How's is everyone? This was a tough conversation for sure. Thank you for sticking with me through it. If there aren't any other questions, we can wrap. Replays exist for a reason, my friend. Replays exist for a reason. I will say, for those of you who stuck it out, either live on the replay to this point, again, thank you for being here. It was not an easy conversation. It was indeed not an easy conversation. So that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. If you need the replay, that's fine. Some of us have learned that it's safer for us to detach from it. Sometimes it is safer. However, that is also a different kind of hard from healing it. Some things, to heal it, you got to detach from it, as a therapist once told me. Whereas kind of like shocking the heart again, you know, on one hand, electricity can hurt you, let it go, but sometimes we need that shock to get it started again too. So it really depends. Is that response being what's serving you? Don't be seen. Okay. Let me address that right now. As the youngest and only girl out of 5 kids, you'd never deserve to carry that, my friend. You don't deserve to carry that. So, what can we do to get you to trust yourself to let that go? Because to feel that way about the self is a self-betrayal, which is where aces live, which is where aces thrive. And I'm going to hug you really, really hard, my friends, because you deserve it. Correct? You can't. Why can't you? This. You've been worth it from the beginning. You have been. Whoever told you otherwise, stop carrying their garbage around on their behalf. Huge hugs to you. All my love. All my hugs. Yes. Take care of yourself. Your voice matters. Dang it.